Well, it's happened again. Chelsea have parted ways with yet another manager, this time being Mauricio Pochettino. Although the Blues were linked with a number of names such as Thomas Frank, the Brentford manager, Kieran McKenna and Roberto De Zerbi, it was Pep Guardiola's former right-hand man Enzo Maresca, fresh from the championship with Leicester, who eventually signed the dotted line. In this video, I'll be taking a look at his past accomplishments, his present philosophies and tactics, along with his potential future with the Pride of London. Let's get into it. Enzo Maresca is a former player turned coach, having had an extensive career playing in Italy, Greece, Spain and even England, as Maresca in fact began his professional career with, of all clubs, West Brom, where he was a teammate of another former Chelsea manager, Graham Potter. Over his nearly 2 decades of playing the beautiful game, Maresca picked up a number of titles, including winning the league with Juventus and going back-to-back for UEFA Cup titles with Sevilla. As a player, he was a versatile deep-lying playmaker, usually found pulling the strings of his team's attacking plays. Following his retirement from playing in 2017, Maresca immediately began the next chapter of his footballing career when he joined Ascoli as part of the backroom staff, although at the time he did not have all his necessary coaching licenses. He was still promoted to assistant coach. After 3 years in this role, he packed his bags and departed for Italy to take up the role of manager for Manchester City's developmental squad. He would go on to win the league with Man City's under-23s after his first year in this role. It wasn't long, however, before Maresca returned to Italy, this time to take up the role as head coach of Parma. Things didn't go as planned this time round, however, with the Italian finding himself out of the job rather quickly after failing to find his footing with the side. Maresca gave reasons for his shortcomings, highlighting the young age of the team, along with its diversity in terms of players' nationalities and different languages. In June of 2022, he returned to Man City as Pep Guardiola's assistant coach. Finally, in June of the following year, Enzo Maresca was unveiled as the new head coach for Leicester City, who had just fallen from the Premier League to the Championship. He immediately got to work, instilling a brand new way of playing in line with his philosophy of controlling the ball effectively, initiating attacks with precision and patience. After all was said and done, Maresca's men finished top of the Championship, leading the line in many key stats within the league, including, but not limited to, goals conceded per match, XG, and big chances created, whilst ranking incredibly highly for average possession, goals per match, and accurate passes per match. So, now we know who the man is, let's take a deeper dive into his footballing philosophies, including his tactics utilised at Leicester. I think it would be fair to say Enzo Maresca can be described as a modern coach, somebody who understands the values of ball possession and not for the sake of having possession so the other team can't score. Breaking the lines described Enzo's ideals in terms of possession as, with the ball, all players are attackers. Without the ball, all players are defenders. What this means is Maresca sees every single player on the pitch as a part of the machine, if you will. Everyone has a role to play from the goalkeeper to the striker in terms of maneuvering the ball into the back of the opponent's net. Enzo Maresca was in fact asked by the BBC directly regarding his footballing philosophy, in which he had this to say. The idea is to keep the ball, but to keep the ball with purpose and with a target. So every time we have the ball, there is a target in behind that most of the time is trying to attack, find space, and find a solution. Sometimes we try to attract the opponent into our side, playing with the keeper, even if the keeper is a little bit outside of the box, it doesn't matter. It's a way to attract the opponent and try to find space and solutions in behind. But for me, the main focus is the ball. So everything we in training session is with the ball, and then in games we want exactly the same. As you can see, much like other managers like Roberto De Zerbi and Xabi Alonso, Enzo Maresca is a big believer in inviting pressure from the opponent to create gaps and spaces to exploit, becoming the puppet master, if you will. He is entirely obsessed with football and has likened it to chess. On the 28th of May, Kieran Gill and Tom Colomose wrote an article highlighting Maresca's obsession. In said article, they revealed how during his coaching training, the Argentinian wrote a thesis titled Football and Chess, highlighting the similarities between the two games. Each move leads to another move, with each side looking for a blunder, hunting for checkmate, moves, and counter moves. Finally, regarding philosophies, it was revealed in the same article Maresca's admiration for the legend Johan Cruyff, owning a number of quotes from the Dutchman on his phone, one being, "When you play a match, it is statistically proven that players actually have the ball 3 minutes on average. So the most important thing is, what do you do during those 87 minutes when you do not have the ball? That is what determines whether you're a good player or not." In short, Maresca regards off-ball work incredibly highly. His teams are built to act as well-oiled machines, with every single player having a crucial role in every manner of the game. Now, onto the tactics. During his time at Leicester, Enzo Maresca's team walked out to the field usually in a 4-3-3 formation. However, this changed rather quickly following the referee's whistle. One of the biggest changes came from the right defensive side, as Ricardo Pereira inverted into a midfield pivot alongside usually Harry Winks. The left back, the two centre backs and goalkeeper would make up the new defensive line. Mads Hermansen was Maresca's goalkeeper of choice for the 23-24 campaign, starting 44 league games for Leicester that season. As you can see from his FB Ref percentile rankings, he was heavily involved in the build-up play for that season, averaging around 51 touches per 90, placing him in the 95th percentile. A ball-playing goalkeeper is absolutely key to Maresca ball, a style which promotes smart passing, confidence in possession, and calmness in traffic, meaning when under pressure, composure is not lost. In terms of the roles of the centre-backs and left-back in Maresca's build-up play, they were each heavily involved on the ball, especially with passing. Wout Faes, Yannick Vestergaard, and James Justin were the usual suspects for Maresca's choice of defenders, and one thing they all have in common is a percentile ranking of 97 or higher for passes attempted. This doesn't necessarily mean they were simply passing the ball amongst themselves. Both Justin and Wout Faes rank incredibly highly for progressive passes. Much like Pep Guardiola with Man City, Maresca likes his centre-backs to be more than confident with the ball, and so this is an area the Chelsea centre-backs will need to be ready to accommodate. Now, you may be wondering why Maresca inverts his fullbacks. Well, the man himself explained his tactical decision on the coach's voice. He outlined how other teams who play a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 usually leave 3 or 4 players defending the transition, as the fullbacks have advanced up the sidelines, providing width to the attack. Enzo Maresca, in inverting the fullback, has essentially given his side 5 players defending against the transition, the 2 centre-backs, the left-back who remain to create defensive stability, and the 2 pivot players, one being the inverted right-back, all doing their part, creating a hexagon shape. And in that hexagon, you've got triangular passing networks, stability, and statistically the best defence in the league, and as the old saying goes, defence wins championships. This is, of course, in the context of defending the transition, but inverting the fullback into the pivot has its uses when in possession. Maresca highlighted how, when playing against a side which fields a 4-3-3, having a fullback invert into the midfield helps create an overload in that area. It becomes 4 against 3 essentially. A lot of games are won and lost in the midfield, and through an overload, this battle falls in Maresca's favour. So not only does the inverting fullback help create a stronger infrastructure when defending in the transition, it also creates a dominance in the midfield, a role Ricardo Pereira played very well at Leicester. Now, Harry Winks played a vital role as this pivot player next to the inverting fullback. Another mainstay in the side, Winks acted as the conductor, the playmaker, the string puller in the midfield, in his half and in the opponent's. This is made clear by his accurate passes per game, which SofaScore has at around 82.4 at a 94% accuracy, with 41 in Leicester's half and 41.7 in the opponent's. In terms of his percentile rankings, these are also incredibly impressive, ranking in the high 90s for touches, carries, passes completed, and passes into the final third at around 8.42 per game. This is in fact a role I could see Enzo Fernandez really thriving in, collecting the ball from the defensive build-up, looking to connect everything together while spraying out accurate passes into the final third. Now for the 2 other midfielders who make up the tips of the U-shape in the midfield, these being Ndidi and Dewsbury Hall. These two live in the half spaces behind the striker, but between the wingers and the pivot. Wilfred Ndidi played a role similar to Gallagher last season, where he really provided energy and a bit of physicality into the final third, whilst also being an attacking asset. We see this through his EpiRef rankings. He wasn't involved that much in terms of being a ball-playing 8 in those attacking areas, but with what time he did have with the ball, he wasn't wasteful, ranking highly for assists, passes into the penalty area, and through balls. I have two players in mind for this Ndidi role, one being Moises Caicedo, and the other being Carney Chukwuemeka, a player who looked really impressive operating in similar areas before injuries cut his season short. Caicedo would be a bit more physically orientated in these areas, whereas I think Carney would provide more of an attacking threat. The other player to highlight here is Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, who recorded 12 goals and 15 assists across all competitions last season. In this role, the player is much involved with on-the-ball work. When compared to other attacking midfielders, he ranks highly for passes attempted, progressive carries, along with through balls and touches in the attacking third. This is a role which demands creativity and calmness with the ball. Enzo Maresca doesn't like to rush his attacks. He would much rather his team dismantle a side sitting back through cool passing, patience, and space creating maneuvers than just crossing the ball into the box and hoping it ends up on the head of the striker. Ndidi and Dewsbury-Hall do play a vital role in creating another overload in the attacking third, especially when compared to the wide wingers and the striker, who can drop into deeper areas, dragging an opponent's centre-back out of position, creating an opportunity for attack. Now, speaking of the attack, let's get into the roles of the wingers and the striker. Under Maresca's Leicester, usually it was Mavdidi and Fatawu who made up the role of wingers. As you can see by their heat maps in the 23-24 campaign, Maresca had them hugging the sidelines heavily, thus forcing the opposition into two options: spread the defence thinly to defend against the wide wingers whilst potentially giving up space through the middle, or stay compacted and allow the wide wingers almost free roam to cause damage from width. Having players capable of taking on players in 1-versus-1 situations will be key, along with them being able to find other players who have crashed into the box, such as the striker, and the two attacking 8s with a cutback pass will be key to the success of the attack. Under Maresca, Daka and Vardy made up the striker options. Neither are world beaters, but that didn't stop Maresca's men from having the second highest goals per game stat in the league last season. The striker position under Maresca ball doesn't require much in order to thrive. It just demands that you are able to A, be in the right position at the right time, and B, be clinical with the chances given to you. The majority of the work is done before a shot is taken under Maresca's diligent build-up practice. It is expected that Chelsea will be signing a striker this summer, although they do have Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku who could play this role. Okay, that's the tactics done. Let's have a look at how I think he was set up at Chelsea. In recent days, we have seen reports that Maresca is happy with Chelsea's current goalkeeper situation and is more than willing to use Robert Sanchez as his #1 goalkeeper going forward. As mentioned earlier, not only do you need to be a successful shot stopper to thrive under Enzo Maresca, but a ball-playing goalkeeper as well. There are a number of options on the market who I would recommend Chelsea sign, the first being Ederson from Manchester City. The 30-year-old shot stopper has enjoyed an incredible career up to this point, winning 8 league titles with Benfica and Man City, including FA Cups and Champions Leagues. Not many other goalkeepers available on the market can argue they've had a richer career than Ederson, and with a price tag of £50 million, it is a doable move. In terms of style of play in which he is used to, Ederson has played under Pep Guardiola for many years now and has since become quite the capable ball-playing goalkeeper. The biggest issue I could see with this move is the age. Ederson, as I said, is 30 years old, turning 31 this August, and Chelsea have shown their unwillingness to invest heavily into depreciating assets, players over the age of 25 years old. Another option I really like for the goalkeeper position is Gregor Kobel of Borussia Dortmund. The Champions League finalist not only ranks incredibly highly for save percentage and post-shot XG minus goals against, a stat which measures how good a goalkeeper is at making saves, but touches as well, 45.43 per 90. That's very similar to Mads Hermansen, the Leicester keeper, and with added Champions League experience and arguably better shot-stopping ability. He is 26 and is contracted to Dortmund until 2028, whilst making around €170,000 per week, most likely likely over the intended budget for a goalkeeper. Mamardashvili was also mentioned, although his ball-playing ability could be questionable, along with Philip Jorgensen, the Villarreal shot-stopper, whose metrics aren't really much to write home about, a lot of grey, a lot of maroon. Marcin Bolka could also be an excellent option. Since leaving Chelsea in 2019 to join PSG, he has become quite the shot stopper, making a name for himself at Nice. At 24 years old, he falls in line with Chelsea's recruitment strategy. At 6'6", Bolka is more than capable of being dominant and aggressive in the air, and from what I've seen of him, he has exceptional reflexes, especially when faced with low shots. Bolka is able to level change very quickly to the ground or to the corners of the goal. Much like Liverpool's Alisson, he isn't afraid to put his body on the line and rush forward to close the angle to goal, making it harder for players to score past him. He's pretty good at saving penalties, ranking in the 87th percentile. That paired with his very high save percentage metric at 77.1% and his goals against stat per 90, it's clear Marcin Bolka would become a standout goalkeeper wherever he went. His passes attempted is fairly average for a goalkeeper, around 32 per 90. However, I haven't seen anything to suggest he is unconfident on the ball. A move will most likely set the Blues back around £34 million, a small price to pay for a keeper like Bolka. In the back line, starting from left to right, I have Marc Cucurella, Levi Colwill, Ousmane Diomande, and Reece James. I'm in fact a big admirer of Riccardo Calafiori. In fact, I think he'd be an unbelievable option on the left-hand side of the defence. However, being such an integral part of Thiago Motta's Bologna side, I see him going to Juventus and Juventus only, following his master across to the Italian giants. Therefore, I have gone with Marc Cucurella, who towards the end of the season was on top form, playing in a new inverted role alongside the likes of Conor Gallagher and Moises Caicedo. Cucurella has operated as a left-sided centre-back for Chelsea before, and last season in the Premier League, the Spaniard registered a pass completion rate of 86.6%, which is in fact higher than James Justin. I do think, however, under Maresca, it will be the right back inverting into the midfield, leaving Cucurella in line with his partner in crime, Levi Colwill. At Brighton, Colwill played under Roberto De Zerbi, who, much like Enzo Maresca, likes to build out play from the back, and so this is a role I believe Colwill will thrive in. During his time there, Levi Colwill also ranked highly for passes attempted and progressive passes, giving me little reason to doubt his readiness for this style of play. He is an incredibly gifted player, and I can't wait to see how he gets on next season. I've already gone into the goalkeeper, but I would like to remind you that in possession, the goalkeeper will basically become an outfield defender, falling in line between Colwill and Diomande. Now, Ousmane Diomande is a name that has been linked with Chelsea for a while now, and going by metrics and his average positioning for the 23-24 season in Portugal for Sporting, he ticks all the correct boxes. Central to right-sided defender, ranks incredibly well for passing between short and medium ranges, progressive and also defensively sound, especially in the air. This is a key area to improve upon, especially with Chelsea adding Brentford set-piece coach Brentford Quaver to the coaching staff. Having taller players with excellent aerial threat can only go down well. According to a report from The Express, Sporting Lisbon may listen to offers lower than a £68 million release clause, going as low as £35 million. For this price, it's an absolute steal for a player who would upgrade this Chelsea backline massively. Chelsea are, of course, stacked when it comes to defenders. Benoit Badiashile, Axel Disasi, and new arrival Tosin, who joined the Blues on a free transfer from Fulham. Trevor Chalobah is expected to leave the club, with Chelsea setting a £25 million asking price for the Englishman. Alfie Gilchrist also expected to leave, but on loan, not as a permanent departure. And, of course, let's not forget Wesley Fofana, who missed out the entirety of last season through injury. Whether he will be capable of being a reliable component of this defence is another question. There's no doubt there's talent there, but has multiple serious injuries thrown his playing career with Chelsea into jeopardy. Only time will tell. At right back, inverting into the midfield, I've gone with Reece James, the club captain. Not only is he one of the most integral players in this Chelsea side, I believe he has the technical ability to thrive in this position, having played as a midfielder during his loan stint with Wigan. Enzo Maresca made sure to emphasize just how important it is that the player in this position is technically able to deal with the traffic, meaning this player will be operating in an area surrounded by opposition players and they'll need to be comfortable working in such a congested space. I believe Reece James can play this role and play it effectively. Malo Gusto played much of last season and impressed me greatly. He certainly showed himself to be an impressive threat both defending and attacking. I just think Reece James is slightly more suited to this inverting role compared to the Frenchman. Alongside him, filling in the role played by Harry Winks, is Enzo Fernandez. The World Cup winner struggled for a lot of last season for a number of reasons. From around December time onwards, he was playing with a hernia injury, which forced him to seek injections and other medications before each game just so he could play through the pain. He also struggled because he was arguably misutilized by Maurizio Pochettino, who had him operating in a far more aggressive style, away from his best position deeper in the field. When you look at where Enzo really thrived in his career, with Argentina and with Benfica, it's clear to see this Harry Winks role would suit him very well. At Argentina, Enzo Fernandez played very close to the defensive line, awaiting the ball to then feed Lionel Messi or Julian Alvarez. He was usually partnered with a more physical counterpart, whether this be Paredes or De Paul. Either way, he was the ball player. He was the deep line playmaker for Argentina. At Benfica, he was again utilised as a deep line playmaker and a pivot, and it was in this role where he ranked in the 99th percentile for passes attempted, progressive passes and carries, becoming an incredibly effective component to Benfica's midfield and attacking efforts. So that is why I believe Enzo Maresca will deploy Enzo in this deeper role, next to an inverting Reece James, who will inherit the majority of the dirty work. Enzo will be there to collect the ball from the build-up play and feed chances through for our attackers. In front on the midfield pivot, I have Moises Caicedo and Cole Palmer. Caicedo playing the Ndidi role and Palmer being a sizable upgrade on Dewsbury Hall. I doubt there'll be many games next season, if any, when both Caicedo and Enzo are fit and available and they don't both start. The club has invested far too much into this area to not utilise them effectively. Arguably, they don't complement each other to the level I'm sure the club expected them to, however this doesn't mean the partnership can't flourish in a different setup. Moises Caicedo had a very impressive season that I believe went under the radar for a number of people, mainly due to his enormous price tag. He was consistent, rarely injured, and was a valuable asset on the ball and off the ball. Conor Gallagher is expected to leave this summer with 1 year left on his contract. Some may argue he would be a better fit for this role, physicality, energy, and a willingness to get stuck in more advanced areas. But with him leaving, I believe Caicedo would be more than capable of playing this role in a more advanced setting, doing his best work off the ball, winning possession high up. I also believe Caicedo would be more technically fit for this role compared to Conor Gallagher, and as we know, Enzo Maresca values technical players very highly. Cole Palmer, Chelsea's player of the season, absolutely incredible player, and in my opinion, the best fit for this Dewsbury Hall role. He has the vision, the on-ball ability, along with the pure class to make it work. This is a position which requires a player to be comfortable working in the half spaces, making runs into the box, whilst also having an eye for goal. Cole Palmer ticks all of these boxes comfortably. I believe he does his best work slightly more centrally, and so I believe Enzo Maresca will play him here and have another player on the right wing, creating width and attacking options. Speaking of wingers, I believe Enzo Maresca will have a number of valuable options to choose from. From the left-hand side, he's got Sterling, Mudryk, even Christopher Nkunku, and perhaps Nicholas Jackson, who, last season, made quite the impact attacking from the left-hand side. On the right, he will have the choice of Noni Madueke, Cole Palmer if he decides to go with another player in the Dewsbury Hall position like Carney Chukwuemeka, or a potential summer arrival, Michael Olise. Chelsea nearly signed the Frenchman last summer but saw the move blocked by Crystal Palace. Since then, he's lit the league on fire with his impressive dribbling, his ball striking ability, and his overall game. Chelsea are rumoured to be back in the market for him, and with a £60 million release clause, it's certainly a viable option. In my opinion, I believe he will be an upgrade to Noni Madueke, who has excellent one-on-one dribbling ability. I just believe Olise would help Chelsea enter that next level, get back into that fight for titles and Champions League glory. Chelsea will also have the likes of Kendrick Paez and Esteval Willian joining the ranks for right-sided options next summer, a good problem to have for Enzo Maresca. In terms of who I think he'll pick for starting wingers, I would have to say Michael Olise on the right-hand side, and for experience and technical know-how, Raheem Sterling on the left-hand side. I really want to see Mykhailo Mudryk succeed at Chelsea, but he really needs to improve upon his overall knowledge in terms of decision making and positioning. We will see a much more methodical approach to the attack next season, and maybe Mudryk won't be initially ready to slide into such a technical space. I'm sure this will be an area heavily focused upon during training for the Ukrainian. Finally, the striker. Enzo Maresca will have a number of options at his disposal. Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku could both play this role well. Jackson, although he had a relatively strong debut season, was wasteful at times with chances and inconsistent in front of goal. What Maresca will need in this position is someone who is going to be clinical in front of goal and give the extensive build-up play in and around the box a meaning. Christopher Nkunku could be a decent option for this position. However, at Leipzig, he wasn't necessarily an out-and-out number 9, playing a number of roles in and around the striker. Chelsea will be signing a new striker this summer, and with Victor Osimhen now no longer a serious target for Chelsea, I would suggest Artem Dovbyk be the man to lead the line next season. Dovbyk played an integral role for Girona, leading the line last season. In fact, the Ukrainian ended the season with 24 league goals, making him that season's top goal scorer. What I noticed when doing research into Dovbyk is his knowledge for positioning. Much like other strikers like Erling Haaland, Dovbyk has an instinctual knowledge of where to be and when to be there in order to maximize his chances of ending up on the end of his team's attacking efforts. His goals per shot ratio is very good, ranking him in the 90th percentile. He is very much a penalty box striker and a very composed one at that, ranking highly for miscontrols as well. A lot of chances created under Enzo Maresca will be cutbacks, and so it's important the striker is comfortable receiving the ball in congested areas and finishing the chances given to him. I see Dovbyk as a brilliant option for this role. When compared to Nicholas Jackson, Dovbyk excels in a number of ways. This season, Jackson averaged a goal every 207 minutes, whereas the Ukrainian averaged a goal every 114 minutes. Quite the difference. Dovbyk excels for assists, challenges lost, which shows him to be a more physically dominating presence, a relevant factor in the Premier League. He is also better aerially, having scored a number of goals using his head this season. Another potential option which Chelsea will reportedly be exploring is Manchester City's Julian Alvarez, who has shone brightly since joining City from River Plate. Dovbyk and Alvarez are two very different profiles, physically and in possession. Dovbyk is 6'2", whereas Julian Alvarez is around 5'6", and so Dovbyk would provide more of an aerial threat when compared to the Argentinian forward. Julian Alvarez does, however, have the fact he is well adjusted to the Premier League already. We've seen how he fares against tougher competition, and he's thrived. I would say Dovbyk is the more prolific forward. We see this through their compared metrics using Data MB, whereas Julian Alvarez is much more of a creative outlet for his side. Of course, the price is also a factor, and with a reported £80 million asking price, perhaps Artem Dovbyk at £34 million is a slightly more attractive prospect. And as for John Duran, absolutely not. We already have a surplus in developing potential strikers. Nicholas Jackson, David Washington, David Datra Fofana even. We do not need another unproven asset. We need a striker who will guarantee goals next season. So this is how I think Enzo Maresca will set up with Chelsea next season, with potential signings taken into consideration. In goal, Marcin Bulka, with a backline of Cucurella, Levi Colwill, Ousmane Diomande and Reece James, with a midfield three of Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo and Cole Palmer, complemented by an attack of Michael Olise, Artem Dovbyk and Raheem Sterling. In game, it would switch from a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-4-1, with the goalkeeper stepping in line, with the back three making it a back four. I believe Chelsea will become a massive threat under Enzo Maresca, where last season the Blues struggled to find any real consistency in terms of play style and attacking patterns. I'd expect Chelsea to return to the ways of the instructed, to look like a team and not a network of individuals without a clue what to do. Only time will tell as to how successful he will be. Chelsea is a massive step up from coaching Leicester in the Championship, and with the need to qualify for Champions League football, the pressure is certainly on. Well, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching. How do you think Enzo Maresca will do at Chelsea? Will he thrive with this young, talented squad, or will he struggle and be yet another name on the list of unsuccessful coaches under the Clear Lake era? As always, I have been The Quick Take, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you later.